Radio personality Jonesy, aka Miss Jones, makes the whole Breakfast Club cry. Let's talk about it. Nowadays, radio gets a bad rap. I mean, just really due to the fact that now there's so many other ways to listen to music, get information. You know, people just kind of put radio to the backside. But one thing's for sure is that radio has a great history of bringing people together, whether it's celebrities, DJs, personalities, and just the energy of the community. That is still going to always be prominent in today's time. Now, one of the biggest radio shows is, of course, The Breakfast Club on Power 105. You know what I'm saying? One of the biggest shows probably ever within the past 20 years. And I'm not going to lie, I watch The Breakfast Club ever so often. I don't tune into the entire show, but what I do is watch the interviews and then some of the topics with LaRosa. Shout out to LaRosa for sure, and shout out to Jess Hilarious just for them becoming newcomers in the radio world. Now, today they had a legendary radio personality by the name of Jonesy. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people may know her from the music side of her, which was Miss Jones. You know what I'm saying? She was an R&B singer, songwriter. Voice is like heaven. You know what I'm saying? She actually was featured on AZ Sugar Hill. You know what I'm saying? She was the hook on that. So y'all just do your homework on who Miss Jones is, but she goes by Jonesy now. And for the past 20 odd so years, 25 years, she's been doing radio. You know, she's been off and on in terms of which station she was on, but she's been very consistent and very influential in the radio game. She's along the likes of Miss Info, you know, Wendy Williams, Angela Yee. She's almost one of those Mount Rushmore of women radio personalities. Now, when she was on The Breakfast Club today, in the midst of talking about how she's getting back to music, which is a great thing. I feel like if you still got it, you're still interested in doing what you love or doing what your God-given talent is, keep going. But in the midst of her telling her story of, you know, what was going on with her through radio times, through the early music times, it got a little bit emotional. You know what I mean? DJ Envy and Jonesy has a very long friendship and history in the music industry in radio, and there were just some stories being told from how hard it was for Jonesy to be able to get certain jobs that she wanted or that she earned it, and at the same time DJ Envy watching Jonesy grow. You know what I mean? She actually was the person who put DJ Envy on giving him an actual job at the radio station, and you see where he's come in his career. And at a particular moment, it got really, really heavy on the tears because they were talking about the concept of you being a woman and really trying to break through in the radio industry, especially when you're having children, you're aspiring to be something great, and then there's things that's holding you back. And between Jonesy, Jess Hilarious, LaRosa, it was a very, very teachable and healthy emotional moment. Reason being, Jess Hilarious has just within the past 2 years or so got onto The Breakfast Club. Now, a lot of people, you know, have mixed feelings about Jess. You know, is she fit out for radio? Is she putting in the time and effort? You know, is she even necessary for the show? Then comes along LaRosa, you know what I'm saying? Very intelligent, very on point. Not saying Jess is not, because, you know, I have a blog talking about how they work and they pair together on the show, and they're both needed on the show. But LaRosa brings another element of being on point with the facts, talking about the current topics. So they both play a role. But of course, you've seen the viral moment where they were going back and forth, and they pretty much put the entire problem live on air. And Jonesy can speak to that. She can speak to things happening on the air. She talked about, you know, the Star and Buck Wild situation, how she got fired, how Star and Buck Wild, you know, did a parody about Aaliyah and her plane crash that wasn't like, you know, Jonesy being able to bring back the energy of the radio station, and then get fired and then get hired again. So it's a lot of different things that she went through. And all four of them, Jonesy, Jess Hilarious, Lauren LaRosa, and DJ Envy, shared an emotional moment all together. I mean, even Jonesy's son was in the background crying as well. And it was for this particular reason of the fact that when you're really trying to break through in any industry, it's important to know that the people who are there with you, sometimes they may not know what you're going through, but if they really down for you, they're going to help the best way possible. And when Jonesy was telling her story about how influential Envy was in getting her back on top of radio, getting a job from Philadelphia, going back to New York, and really, starting a podcast, DJ Envy, at the height of his career, started a podcast with Jonesy to be able to get her wheels turning again, up until the point where she actually got a job back on New York radio from that podcast. And it got really teary-eyed because Jess chimed in and she was like, I really, she was like, I really love you, Jonesy. I really love what you're about, the things that you went through. And then she started crying because it's like she felt like she was really in tune with the trials and tribulations that Jonesy went through, because at this moment in time, Jess is experiencing that as well. Then Lauren LaRosa started tearing up as well because she understands how difficult it is being a young gun in the industry, trying to break through, establishing relationships, not wanting to break other relationships, and doing her job all in one. So she started to tear up. And then, of course, DJ Envy, a lot of people call him emotional or sensitive, but in my act, I'm emotional as well, and I use my emotion for strength. I use my emotion for the levels of being able to break through. And to be honest with you, when you're crying happy tears and you're crying tears of passion, it just makes you stronger. So DJ Envy started to tear up because he knew what Jonesy was going through with her pregnancy, not having enough money to take care of her apartment, being able to, having to move out of her apartment and downgrade her life to be able to survive, people not respecting her drive and her work ethic. And then, Jonesy overcoming all of that. He even mentions a moment where, and this is where he really started getting emotional, where he mentions a moment where Jonesy used to do surveys, to make money. She used to put on one wig, do the survey, then put on a different wig and do the same survey, and then put on another wig and do the same survey. Sounds funny, but when you're in desperation to be able to make some money and you need to make money for your child, sometimes you'll do anything for that money because it just has to come through. It has to come through. It was a very emotional moment on the Breakfast Club. One of the rare type of interviews. It didn't have Charlamagne there. Charlamagne wasn't present, and I believe if he was present, he would have brought a little bit of extra humor. But I think it was necessary, in my opinion, for him not to be there, judging by the way how Envy and Jonesy have a real connection. And that energy and that connection spread it off into Lauren LaRosa and Jess Hilarious evenly, because they needed to see that. They needed to see how two people can work together in the industry, go through so many ups and downs, and then come out on top eventually. They needed to see that. And to be honest with you, Charlamagne, of course, is the number one on the show, but we didn't need for Charlamagne to lighten up the mood and say something funny to break the energy, because some people need those emotional moments. Some people need to cry with their friends, cry with their colleagues, and bring out the best in each other. The one thing that Jonesy said that was vital to where I feel like Jess Hilarious is going is she flat out told her, hey, that was a viral moment when you guys are going back and forth on air with Lauren LaRosa. It may not have been something that you felt like was right because you were emotional in your own right, and you should be. At the end of the day, you needed to show the people how human you are. That was the day you became human to the people. And although you have an exterior where, you hardcore, if somebody bite at you, you bite back. In that moment, you showed everybody how to be vulnerable. And now people can connect with you a lot more, that you have that balance of being vulnerable, but also being strong. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a very, very great interview. You know what I'm saying? I watch a lot of different interviews from different shows, and I can say this is actually one of the best ones. And it was also a teachable moment, not for just the young generation in radio, but also the legendary generation in radio that still have something to offer. Somebody like Jonesy still has more in the tank. She has more talent. She has more things to offer. She actually talks about the relationship between her and Wendy Williams, which was actually good to know, because usually you think when you have two or three or four different types of women in the industry, you automatically think that it's a problem, or they're competing against each other. But to hear that they had a really great relationship up, of course, to a certain point, was very refreshing to hear. She also talked about running into Beyonce and having words with Tina Knowles, which is her mom. She also talked about, the music that she was doing, how inadvertently Mary J. Blige really adapted Miss Jones's style by way of Puffy. Puffy would listen to the mixtapes of Miss Jones, and how she would take rap beats and make R&B records to him, and he adapted that sound, you know what I'm saying, and actually gave that to Mary J. Blige. Not necessarily stealing any music, but just adapting that concept and sound. And that's the reason why we got the Mary J. Blige that we have for today. So that was refreshing to hear, because it just lets me know that sometimes, lines get crossed. Not saying people steal, but people do, tune into what you're doing, and they might use it. So it's better for you to go ahead and put out your music and do the best that you can with your style and what you do, because other people are watching. You know what I'm saying? Very, very great interview. I encourage everybody to watch this interview, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're in radio or you're in music or you're in acting. It's a great inspirational video. It shows so many levels of how you can be on top, fall down to the bottom, and find your way back to the top. Shout out to Miss Jones, aka Jonesy. I wish her the best, and I'm definitely I want to tap into her music and see what she got new. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know what I'm saying? Let me know if the interview was dope when you watch it, and let me know some other things that you feel like they should have covered, or even if this emotional moment was even worth it on air. You know what I mean? Let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. It's your Council Party Rob. Y'all know what it is. Workload.